And today we have Kala Ramesh with us. She is coming to us from India, and she is one of my favorites. She knows it, and I've tried to figure out when the first time we bumped into each other on the internet, but it was decades ago.
The haiku hut.
Yeah,
The haiku hut is where I met you first.
yeah. Well, Haiku Hut, but I was familiar with your work and stuff even on some of the other places, but Haiku Hut was an interesting little corner of the universe that we had, and that
Oh, lovely. It was lovely.
yeah. We had a lot of fun together, and there was a lot of people there. I mean, we had Ron Moss and Gene Murtha and God, Ray
Larry,
Rasmussen, every
Larry, and yeah.
Linda Papa Giorgio, and you name it, we had it. It was quite a fun group. But I've known you for a long time, but I want to give people today a chance to get to know you a little bit too. So tell me about your personal background, where you are, where you come from, where your environment is, and just give people a setting for where you write your haiku.
At the outset, let me thank you, Mike, for being my friend, my guide, my philosopher, and I really look up to the way you do things. And I would say I imitate you in many ways. The way you have spread the haiku, and you've been inclusive, and that is what I've been trying to do from the beginning.
You
And
do.
you have helped me a lot. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh,
You inspire me too. So we're a mutual
uh,
admiration society.
okay, now coming to my childhood days, um, let me start with myself first. Yes, because I always wanted to be a musician. Throughout my childhood days, I remember Chennai. I was born and brought up in Chennai, and every road has a temple there, almost. And every time we pass, all Indians pray. We bow to the temple, God, whoever, whichever God there is. Every time I remember, is all I prayed was, I should become a musician. I should become a musician. But it didn't happen. And here I am as a haiku poet, and people know me more as a haiku poet than as a vocalist or a veena player. Now, coming back to my childhood days, we were four of us, four siblings, three sisters, and one brother, and I'm the third, the pampered one, or rather, that's what people say. I don't think so. And my father was a practicing doctor.
Ah,
He got, he's a motherless child, but somehow his father gave him the wings to fly, he always says, and he prided in his English. I'm talking about so many years back. And he used to say, and he came to Chennai from the village, and joined Stanley Medical College and became a doctor. And he wanted to do MD and study further. He wanted to go abroad, but it didn't happen because at the age of 22, he got married to my mother, who was 17. And next year, my elder sister was born. And after that, soon others started coming into the picture. And he couldn't afford it. The first being three daughters,
hmm.
which means getting them married and so many other things so many years back. So he got into medicine, practicing, doctoring. And his passion, I remember, was plants. Constantly, it was plants, plants. And in the afternoon, I remember every Thursday was a day off. And in the afternoon, he'll take each plant in his hands and he'll wipe them with a damp cloth. And that is the love he had for plants, which he had till he died at the age of 98. Yes, he just died last year. I was gifted. Yes. And then in the evening, he would take us to the Marina Beach. Chennai was a coastal city, and the Bay of Bengal was there, stretched before us. And every Thursday, we've gone there. He used to hold us firm and take us right into the waves, whether it was high tide or low tide. And that is what we learned, to face life. I think we learned all that very young, to face life and enjoy life the way it should be. And I think these lessons come untold. And then the summer vacation, he'll take us on huge trips. And uh, I mean, all three of us, I think all four of us, I don't remember my brother, he came in the end, but all three of us have learned car driving, sitting on his lap on the highway. On the highway, unheard of. We all we'll do is hold the steering wheel and he'll manage the pedals and the gear. And he will never, never forget to tell us that we drove beautifully. And my mother was the artistic type. She's still writing haiku poetry at the age of 90. I mean, she's writing songs in Tamil at the age of 91. She sings, and she was into dancing. She was into painting, and that is what she put three girls. And she gave us drawing and painting and music. I was put into music and dance, my sisters, and she gave us tennis because my last aunt loved tennis. So everything was there, to take us forward, the extracurricular activities apart from the education, which is, I think in Chennai, it was very, very the done thing to give them a lot of artistic values that now I know that if I'm good at haiku, it is not because of the schooling, or it's not because of anything that we did. It's because of all this combined atmosphere at home. The amount of books my father has bought for us. And every time he covers our notebooks, he'll smell the new book and he'll say, smell, smell, see the new book, see the scent of that new book. These are all the small things that one can never forget. So I think I can keep on going on, but I think maybe we could go for the next question, Mike. I can keep going on about my childhood.
We have a lot in common. My dad loved to travel, so every year we took a vacation, and every year, and even if he was having a bad year, it didn't matter. We went on the vacation. And my first time driving a car, I was 13, and he took me on a dirt road. He got out of the car and said, take the wheel. And I said, I don't know how to do it. By the way, it's a stick shift on the car. So that was it. He said, I learned to drive when I was 13. You're going to learn how to drive. I don't care about the law. You're out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And those vacations we went on, you're absolutely correct. That may be, I never thought about it before until you said it, but that may be one of those things. We went everywhere, every national park. We did it in a car. We drove all night. We slept sometimes in the back of the car while he drove in the evenings.
Yes, what fun.
It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, that's the life of a haiku poet. That's how you germinate us. But where do people find your work on the internet? I know, but I may not have exhausted all the places where I can find Kala Ramesh. Where can we find you?
I don't have a blog, and I don't know how people find time to maintain one. I don't think I can. I'm not equipped. But I think Cornell University, curated by Tom Clausen, in one library has around 31 of my haiku and send you. And of course, if you just Google my name, Kala Ramesh haiku, my haiku comes out, or tanka, or haibun, or these things come up if they are interested.
Oh, yes.
If you're interested in the essays, I'm quite happy with the essays I wrote on how to haiku, the heart of haiku, and it is up at the British Haiku Society in the educational column. It is out of my own experience of 10 years of haiku that I wrote that. And I still stand by what I've written, which is a lot for haiku because it's constantly changing its face. And then I think Cho has one of my recent articles on linkmanship, which I worked a lot, and Rich and Jenny Angiel also helped me with ideas and things like that. I'm very happy about that article, and a few articles are here and there. Yes. That's about it.
How about your site on Facebook?
Oh, my Facebook page, I've got something called Trivaini going on. And it's a secret group, of course. But you are there, Michael. You are there, Mike, so much there, a part and parcel of our group activities. And so much is going on there. I started in 2005. I started picking each, and I used to ask the editors to any name, Indian name, I would ask for their email ID and include them in the group. It was not a Facebook group that time. It was in 2005. It was a Google group, and I used to include them, and started by Susumu Takiguchi. And when I came into 2005, in 4 months' time, he said, "Do you think you can join us as a facilitator for the World Haiku Club India?" And I agreed. I'm there for all this. And he gave me 25 members, if I remember. And I made it into 60 just by asking everyone, especially Shiki. I used to ask him, please give me Jenny and I've forgotten his Robert. I used to ask them, please tell me, give me this person's address. Please give me. Not once they said, why do you want it? We are not supposed to give. It's confidential. These things were unknown then, I think, till we made it so complicated now. And I used to collect them. And then in 2013, Anjali was there. Anjali Devdar was there. Johannes Manjareka was there, K. Ramesh was there, and then I said, I told them 2 months before, I want to start something called the In Haiku, a group for Indians, and we did that in 2013 during the conference I arranged in 2013, and then slowly it came to be known as Trivaini. And Trivaini is what is having around. And then Facebook came into the picture, and it was so easy to pull people, Indians, into this group. Very easy. And we are having almost 350 to 400 Indians, out of which around 200 are actively participating. And the most exciting thing for me is we've been doing a lot of trying out lots of ideas. But the latest one is, which was last month, was Geet Mala. Trivaini Geet Mala, which means Geet means songs and Mala means Mala, the bead chain that you wear. And it's called Geet Mala, where yes, Mike, yes. And every poet sang their poem. We were 15 of us, and we had nearly 17 cheerleaders. It was a great event, and we want to repeat it. But the most exciting thing is the Trivaini Gurukulam mentorship program, which started off on 6th of March this month. We had the inaugural function. I just put it up in our group saying we are starting something like this in 1 day flat. I got 50 registrations. So we are 50 of us, and I got hold of 7 mentors: K. Ramesh, Ajaya Mahalla, Gautam Nadkarni, Vandana Parashar. Ikra Raza is my own student from the time she was a school student. She did my 2 days course, and now she's doing her MA. She just finished her MA in St. Stephen's. She's also there because she's very good. Ikra Raza and myself. I didn't want to be there. And then Kanchan Chatterjee. We are 7 of us managing the 50. And it's a 3 months program. We are hoping, and we have 10 beginners, freshers, and 40 who already know haiku, but which is big. I wouldn't exaggerate, but I don't think any country has something so big. Yes.
I think you're onto something. I'll tell you, the joy of it, when you have people who you're mentoring and helping, is this, and you've said this before, I think, at different conferences and stuff. It gets back to the old beginner's mind. I find that I'm being taught as much as I am teaching, maybe 2 times more, because I start my lessons now sometimes with people. I will show them 10 of my poems that I've recently written and they get to critique mine before I get to critique theirs. And you know what? They catch stuff. In fact, Colleen, just a few days ago, caught one of my published poems. I won't bother that clearly had something that could have been corrected easily. Both myself and the editor missed it, but the
Okay.
student caught it immediately. And I go,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, I too bad it was in print, so I can't get it corrected. But uh, but I didn't notice it, and they didn't either. And that's I think the real benefit when you tell people how sharing haiku with others, like you're doing and you do all the time. Uh, that's the real benefit. So I yes, I think that's probably one of the largest groups out there. And you do these things
Yes.
when,
Yes.
when you say snap your fingers and do it, you're not joking. I've watched you do it.
It just gets done. I don't sleep some days. I don't sleep some days because the ideas, I said it has to go. And then it just gets done. Very true.
Me
But it's
too.
fun. I've been enjoying it and I've been gifted, I think. I've been gifted. And I have a group of people who are around me, who support me, and who are involved in what is happening there. And which is, I think, it's a huge gift. It's a blessing.
They're a great group.
Definitely.
What how did everybody has a story about how they stumbled into haiku, because this isn't something you didn't take a college course and suddenly say I want to become a haiku poet. Tell us, how did you stumble into this? How did you find haiku, and why do you stick with it? What attracted you?
Yes. Yes, that's a beautiful question. Well, the siblings, the four of us, I got a computer last in 2000. Okay. And we started off, my brother's so much into, I think you've met him. You've met my brother and my brother-in-law. You've come to our house also. Okay. And my brother was very steep into Indian philosophy and Eastern religion. And he exposed us, and we were doing Bhagavad Gita, we were doing Hindu philosophy and doing Viveka Chudamani of Adi Shankara, who brought in the Advaitic principle or the oneness or the non-dualism to expose. He was the contemporary of Buddha. Okay.
Yeah.
And during that conversation, it was a long 6 months conversation, all of us pouring in, and that was when I was exposed to Indian philosophy in 2000. And he mentioned something about haiku, and he posted two of Basho's poems. That was in 2000, and it just went away like the autumn wind. It just vanished from my mind because I was so steeped into practicing music. I used to practice music for 8 hours and 9 hours, then pack my husband's lunch and my children's lunch and cook for myself. Everything was happening. So I had no time for haiku. I had no time to even think beyond that. But in 2005, I happened to write a poem on on Indian music, and I posted it on boloji.com, and that editor said, please check whether your poem is right. And when I went to check the poetry site, all that happened was flashes saying haiku poetry, haiku poetry. And I downloaded those 5 poems, those 5 lessons. It was done by Smita Chakravartulu. She's not anywhere in the haiku field, but so beautifully written. She didn't divert the person into the 575 game. She spoke and she gave Simply Haiku, which was on the top in 2005, Simply Haiku and Modern Haiku, and two other, Modern Haiku didn't have an email that time, and one of the two other magazines. And I just wrote to Simply Haiku because the email was there, and that's how my journey started. And what keeps me alive and what keeps the passion going is teaching, like you rightly put, Mike, just 2 minutes before. It is facing the children. Just 6 months into haiku, I was asked by Katha Books to take a workshop. I don't know what I told. How can I teach such a complicated art form in 6 months' time? I didn't even know what a kire is, what a kigo is, what is a condensed form of poetry. But I taught them something. I don't know what it was. But over the years, I think I mastered the art of teaching, because I have so many poets now in Trivaini who have taken my workshop, the 2 hours, the long and short of haiku, I call it, the tanka workshop, the haibun workshop. And of course, I have to mention the Symbiosis undergrads course that I'm doing now. It is a 60-hour spread over 4 months. And I started it in 2012. I went to Anita Patankar to just ask her whether I can expose children during the weekend to a 2-hour workshop. I had taken my books, my bio, all the things in a huge bag. She said, let's sit in the couch and talk, Kala. We were there. 2 hours we spoke. I didn't even touch my bag. We just spoke. And she said, how about doing a 60-hour, 4-month course for my liberal arts students? And we'll pay you this much. It was a fabulous amount. When I was not here, I was trying to go for free. She was giving me a fabulous, it's not the money, but it is the value that haiku can hold in such an academic atmosphere. It was amazing. It was in 2012, and now it's 2021. I'm still teaching there.
Ah,
It is
yeah,
7 years now, and that has taught me a lot teaching. And I told her the first day, Anita, supposing the students don't like me, she said, don't worry. If the students don't like you, on the first day itself, you will not have the attendance, their attention. The next day, slowly it'll taper off, and we won't call you again, Kala. And that the fact that I've been called is the greatness of the mahima of haiku, and yes, and what I've learned about it over the years.
I think that's the way. Just about everybody who gets into this and tries to teach it. One of the key things, and Randy Brooks has been doing it probably longer than anybody in Illinois, and but as a college class, which is far out. But I think that's a fascinating story. But that's it. And just when you get into this stuff, sometimes you just have to get in the boat. This is what haiku teaches you. You just have to get in the boat and row. You know. So yeah, that's
Yes,
exactly
whether
what
you
you
know
did.
rowing, whether you know rowing or not, you row.
And
And
whoever.
one more thing, Mike. It's a 60 hours program, and she gave me all the liberty to handle my syllabus. I had nothing to bank on except what I've been writing. 2012, 2005, I came in. I was already writing all the art forms. I mean, all the forms that haikai poetry has. So I introduced haiku, then senryu, then I go on to haibun, then I go on to renku, which I think is very necessary for people to start off. They know what is a sentence haiku, they know what is a proper haiku. They know what is no season haiku, they know what is with a season. They know the importance of a moon verse, they know what love is and how emotions can slip in. It is, I think it's beautiful, and you're not writing it alone. You're having a group of people to help you. I think it's beautiful if we all get into renku and then haiga, and then and I think again I would say I don't think in India anyone is teaching all these forms in a 4-month course, and I don't know about the world. But yes, these are all the plus points, and it keeps me going. It is this teaching is that passion that I see in people's eyes, that excitement that keeps me going.
Well, link verse too. You're dead on to something. Uh, William Higginson, he hammered it home. He said, if you do not understand linked verse, you can't understand haiku, because the whole beginning of this of haikai, the whole core of it was the hoku, which is the starting verse to the renku, and that that's exactly, if you once you understand that, you realize you have to leave. You can't try and put everything into 17 syllables or less that you saw. Instead, you have to leave something for the other people to, whether they're writing linked verse or not, to read into
Yes.
it. And that's the key. So that's fantastic. You got dragged into it, and it worked out. That's
And I
fantastic.
had best mentors. Norman Darlington started it for me,
Oh yeah.
and then Moira Richards, and then I had Eko Echimoto. We did a lot of Renko together. Then I have John Carley, who led me through a lot of haiku, and renku, and I think this gave me the, even though I don't write regularly, I can just catch on to that when I'm teaching my students.
Well,
I know the rules and I just know how to go about it.
John Connolly's book, and Norman published it, The Renku Reckoner. I would
Yes.
recommend that to anyone. And it's terrible when he passed away. I mean, too early. But his work was phenomenal. Ron Moss, many other people who've got into it because of his enthusiasm for the form. And Bill Higginson's stuff that he put up, some of it 20 years ago, is still on the web.
Yes.
You
Yes.
can still find
and
it.
I tell all my students to go through his 500 season words.
Yeah.
A must.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just Tarashi Kondo and Chris Kondo, and that
Yes.
all of those things are there, and that's part of it. And I'll say this, Kali, you are building a history of that in India. That's what you're
Thank you.
doing. You're
Thank
just
you.
doing the same
Thank you.
thing all over again. And all of these people, Marlene Mountain, Bill Higginson, Michael Dillon Welsh, Francine Perot was a great friend of mine early on. She passed away many years ago. And of course, Roberta Beery was one of my idols. But those are the people who they're so enthusiastic that when they teach other people, the other people may not be listening to the words sometimes. I think they just say, I got to try this because Roberta calls it a drug. It's your drug of choice.
Very true. Very true. Very true. I think it is the enthusiasm that we try to project, or the love that we have for this art form you project. And I think it works magic. It just something rubs off on the participants, on the listeners.
It works. Who are some of your role models and mentors and people specifically in haiku? I know we've touched on some of them here just a minute ago, but
yes. I would like to differ from this question, deviate, because I don't like to wall in a particular art form, because I came into haiku very late in my 50s. Till that time, I was into music, instrumental, Indian, South Indian classical, North Indian classical, and then various types of paintings and so many things. And I firmly believe poetry was never in my radar, never. But I did believe. But my father writes very well, my brothers, my sister is a very well-known editor, and she brought out Katha. My second sister has already written 3 novels, but I was into music, and it ended there. But that music, that love for innovating something, innovating, creating, I think all arts have it. And I think it is that, it is whether it is the performing arts, especially the performing arts like dance, music, storytelling, tennis, I would include. These are all the things that formed a part of my childhood, and it continued till I was 50. In spite of having my marriage and my children and everything going on, that was all part of it. But this art kept me going, of the being rooted in the moment. And when Peggy asked me, what is it color, in 2005, when I wrote to her, she was my editor in Heaven's Nest, I said, I think music lives for that moment, and it just passes away. It just fades away. We don't know where that note goes. And I think that transient quality of not being rooted is what attracted me to haiku. Because it starts without a capital, it ends without a full stop. It's just a moment frozen, it passes on. And she said, it's lovely, lovely. I'm going to remember this always. And I think that has not changed the last 14, 15 years. It is that. And then, of course, if I say music, poetry, I think I've worked for Kabir for the last 15 years before I took up haiku. And Kabir is a saint, a philosopher, a poet. And he roamed the whole streets of northern India singing of oneness. And he spoke about non-dualism in a very nice way. If I remember right, I hope I remember the words. He says, it's a couplet. It's called Doha. He says, raindrop falling into the ocean. Raindrop falling into the ocean, everyone knows. The ocean absorbed in the raindrop. The rare one knows. Raindrop falling into the ocean, everyone knows. The ocean absorbed in a raindrop. The rare one knows. In two simple images between the raindrop and the ocean, he has encapsulated, he has said the whole Indian philosophy or the Advaitic philosophy or non-dualism about all that being in everything. I am that, the Mahavakya. The God is not separate, I'm not separate, I'm that. So he has said it. So Kabir influenced me a lot, and there are plenty of his dohas and plenty of his Nirguni bhajans which I've sung and practiced and went and asked for meanings, because it is in a language which I didn't know. So I've asked for meanings. And of course, that, and then when I came into the haiku world, there were so many poets. Haiku heart is my main exposure to other poets. Otherwise, it was huge for me. I can never forget what you did, Mike. And then there I met Larry. She was my mentor, and there I had my first, you might not remember, my first conversation about Advaita and philosophy of oneness with you I had written a poem, and then your comment, and then I said, how? And then you say, I know Upanishads. I've been reading, if you remember. And I
Right
said,
behind
wow, yes. And now again, we have something very common. Both of us are vegan. Again, there is it. We are coming closer and closer, Mike.
Yeah, it's the thing of it is too is that I've been to India, so you know that, and I did a lot of it as I did one trip was entirely me discovering India, and the other times it was business. I would fly in, do software development or something in Mumbai or Bangalore, and so that it was just, I tell people all the time, and I have one of my friends here goes every year. He was a professor at the University down in Ohio, and he lives up here now. But they go every year. He doesn't have to. It's not part of his thing. That's their vacation. It couldn't go this year, obviously because of COVID. But he hasn't missed a year in decades, and that's it's the anyway. I won't delve off into philosophy, but I was a theater major, and my minor was in philosophy and religion. So that's how I fell into all of this. It was just a cool thing. So we have a lot of similarities there. I certainly understand.
Lots.
And that's we and in haiku hut, one of the rules was the poet rules. That was my primary rules. We can critique each other, we can talk about things with each other, but in the end, it's your poem. Do with it as you wish. And I'm always surprised, and I'm asking you, aren't you surprised about what gets published of yours? What editors pick? Does it ever surprise you?
It does. Because some of my poems, when it get published, I said, did they really pick it up? Oh, that's nice. And I have my same thing. Many people, when I started as an editor in Under the Bar Show, Don gave me only one request. He said, let it not be exclusive, Kala. Let it be inclusive. Take 3 or 4 poems from a poet so that we get a feel of what that poet is saying, and try not to refuse. I think you also have something similar. Okay. But that that made me wake up to the fact that as editors, we are not looking for excellence constantly. We are looking for the love of sharing. And that's how it should be. What is it that tells me if I think that poem that I've chosen is great, the other editor might not think it's great. So where is the question of perfection? Where is the question of saying this magazine will only hold the best? What is best? It's contradictory. It is the most abstract word, like perfection. I've got away from that word perfection like the plague now. Because perfection, I read a beautiful article in Hindu philosophy which says they liken perfection to the horizon. The closer you go, the further it gets away. Isn't that beautiful? So what is this perfection we're all hankering after? Because your sense of perfection is different from mine, and mine is different from my granddaughter or my daughter. Every generation has their sense of perfection. So I think all this, I think, has made me a kinder editor.
Yeah,
I would say.
no, that my definition of perfection, like it means if this were my poem, I wouldn't change a thing. That's all it means. Now, Kyle Ramesh may not like it at all. And one of the
Yes,
things I will say is you have a good friend in Don Baird. Don is the most down to earth,
yes.
kind person I've ever met. I've met his wife; she's phenomenal, and Hatsuteki, of course, his partner in crime, his
Oh, lovely, lovely.
favorite
I've been
favorite poet
the
of
last.
mine. In fact,
Yes,
I
I've
should
been
grab
with him.
Hansa and interview him.
Oh, we've been together in Under the Basho for the last 5, 6 years now, I think. Oh,
Yeah.
great team. Yes.
But that's I think that you've hit on it though. It's the most important thing is to be inclusive and not to set the rules. I don't if you want to if you want to write all of your poems in one line, knock yourself out. If you want to write them all in two
Absolutely.
line, you were probably around for the old zip haikus. Remember those?
Of
They were
course.
arranged like this, like a
Of
zipper.
course. I even tried them. I have
Yeah.
it in my book. I have 3 or 4 zip haikus there.
Yeah,
Haiku there. Yes, I loved it. I
that
wrote
was
to
fun.
John. I said, John, this is my zip haiku. Is it okay? And we had conversations about zip haiku,
That,
which I
it
did
was
the same with Marlene Mountain. When I started writing the one line in 2005, I remember I was so new to it. I wrote to Marlene Mountain and I wrote to Bessock. I mean, just what is that Australian poet? Um, uh,
Janet,
she's very good.
Janet Boston.
Janet. No? Yes, I wrote to her. Both of them helped me understand one line. And later, I was so happy that the Mountain and Marlin and me wrote for 6 months every day to bring out a 90 haiku, one-line haiku, which was brought out by Bones. That is also there. I forgot to tell about it in the internet. That is there very much if people want to read. But that
We'll
was
have
a
to.
great collaboration. We loved it. And Marlin, it was lovely to have. Every morning I'll get a mail from her. And she will not talk about the poem at all, which I've written. I won't know whether the whole night I'll be saying, is that correct? I've given her 3 options, which is she's going to take. And then she'll just give her one haiku, which she connects up to one. She says, don't worry. If you think that's a one line, that's a one line. Over.
Yeah, she was, and I tell everybody this, it comes up all the time. She was the most fearless person. She didn't
Yes.
care. And by the way, she's the one who she invented the phrase. I use it all the time, but it's she meant it in the pejorative. I don't, but she invented the phrase haiku glitterati. People who tell you how haiku is. This is the way it is, and you must do it this way. And she would write haiku about the haiku glitterati.
Oh, yeah.
I still miss her because she just didn't care she cared about the form. She did not care about what other people were
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
tell her about it. And
Very true.
that's the thing. You're a teacher like that too.
Thank you. But she influenced me a lot. in the way she went about it with a sureness. She was confident about what she wrote, and that I think is a great quality to have.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, that's she was just one of the people I still idolize her. The fact that she's not here with us doesn't matter anymore. She has such a body of work. But what now you've touched on this briefly, but you've done Haiga, Senru, Haiben. Got any favorites? Got any areas that you like to spend time in, or something you want to
I
spend more
don't
time
know.
in?
I don't know. I just write whatever it takes. And now I'm into parallel haiku also, which is so much part of me. And then quartet, which Johannes created. And that is also so much. It lends itself to the space in between and the ma that Terry is talking about in the next festival. And I think all these art forms come together
Mhm.
somewhere. You know, when we talk about music, it is the held breath. You know, you take a full oxygen into your lungs and then you sing only for half a lung. Okay, and then you're holding that breath, and that silence is much more pregnant and much more meaningful than a lung which is all out, and then you give a silence and then you take a breath. That is a spent breath. So if that difference is there, then all these art forms also have a thread of, you know, haikai I'm talking about. I don't know free verse at all. I told you I was not into written words before. So it's haikai I'm talking about. Anytime I say poetry, it's haikai. That has what to say, this inbuilt space in it. It has that conciseness. It has all these things, and that flows through it. And I think that is what holds all these art forms together. So whether I do haiku or renku or senri or haibon or haiga. I don't do that much of haiga, but I do. And tanka. Again, tanka is again a beautiful book, and I'm very happy to say that HarperCollins is bringing out my next book on tanka. It has tanka prose, and it has tanka doha. I took, yes, it's great because I remember Michael Welsh asked me, Kala, did you have HarperCollins? Do you have an agent? I said, no, Michael, I can't afford an agent. I just uh, in LinkedIn, a person came and said, Kala, become my friend. I was in London that time. I said, why not? I mean, what about security and privacy and all that? I became her friend, Renita, and I went to her to check what she was doing, and she said HarperCollins. So I picked up. I've never sent my books to any of these top people because I know it'll just go into the trash and never return it. And I never published my book as a, also, it was a principle of mine, which is very stupid. I don't advocate that. But for 14 years, I waited for someone to pick up my book, and I didn't want to go for self-publishing or vanity publication. Okay, so HarperCollins. So I said, Renita, I have my Tanka book, which 14 years has been waiting. Do you think they'll be interested? It's almost through. She said, Kala, I'm just a copyright. I'll put you onto the main editor. And she sent a common mail that was sitting in London. It was on 24th of November. I still remember. He said, please send me the manuscript. I said, Michael McClintock is writing the foreword. It is not yet ready. He said, I don't want the foreword. I don't want the afterword. I just want to read your book. 26th, I kept awake. I was taking care of a 4-month-old baby, my grandson. So, you know, the whole day, my daughter-in-law, my son, all of us were running around that baby. So in the night, I kept awake. I polished my manuscript. 26th November, I sent it. 4th December, I get a mail from the chief editor, 8 days, saying that we'll pay you this much for this book and we are happy to publish this book for you. Can you imagine? But it was in 2019, then 2020 it was supposed to come. It didn't come. They postponed it to 2020 because of COVID. They postponed it, and 2021, June, July, it's supposed to come. Already the editors have approached me, and we are working on the manuscript and polishing it, and the cover is being talked about, and it's exciting. It's exciting. I don't know how the book is going to be because it's 3 years old manuscript. I don't know how that is going to be, but fine, fine.
That's unbelievable story. I'm with Michael Dillon Welsh. Who knew? Who knew? Who knew HarperCollins would pick up a tanka book? But congratulations, get that baby out there. That's going to be fantastic. Fantastic for all of us, actually. It's quite interesting, when you used to go into bookstores back in the 80s and 90s, straight through till now, you can find Bill Higginson and Penny Harder's book, the Haiku Handbook. So who knows? Maybe
Yes.
you will be the next,
Oh,
the tanka handbook lady, huh?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. One step at a time. One step at a time.
Well, we're gonna put a list of the books and things that you've written, but I'm gonna prompt you on one of them, Wishbone Moon.
Yes, I don't have it here. I'm in Chennai now. I don't have that book to show you, but it so happened my mother has. Oh yes,
I got
you
one.
have
I got
it.
it here somewhere. It's got to be here. I
It
have
has to be
one,
there.
but I didn't pull it out. I thought,
When Jacquard Prest asked me to be the editor, one of the editors, co-editors, along with Roberta and Ellen, I was in the seventh moon. I said, "Wow!" And that was a huge thing for an Indian, and to be called, and it's lovely. And the book has come out very well. And my only request was, can I send the request to my Indian? They said, of course, it's in the international anthology. So I sent it to 20 of my friends, and many of my Indians are there, friends are there. And yes, I
well,
took care of my
Ellen
Indians.
Compton is a favorite of mine. She's been around for a long time. Excellent poet. And
And
Roberta.
Roberta was lovely. Both of them were lovely to work with. We worked for nearly 7, 8 months over that book. Constant interaction, constant choosing. It was great fun.
Yeah, Roberta's
And of
fantastic.
course, the second book, my first book of 14 years is this. I don't know whether it is upside down or whether it
Yeah,
is clear,
you're
but
right.
it is, yes, the horizon beyond, what is it? Beyond the horizon beyond. Imagine forgetting my own title. Oh, that is. So this is the book. And yes, it has a theme. I think you had wanted me to know whether it has a theme. It does have. See, my mother took care. It's all about a story, isn't it? I don't know whether we have time. It's a very short story,
Go
Mike.
right ahead.
My
Go
mother,
ahead. Go ahead.
my
Go ahead.
mother, my mother took care of her grandmother because my father, I told you, was a doctor, and all of them those days, I'm talking about 150 years back, they were not very, not 150, I'm sorry, 100 years back, they were not very, uh, uh, knowledgeable about old age and how to manage it. So my grandmother, I still remember my great grandmother, I was just 6 years then. She was in our bedroom in the front room, and my father was a doctor to take care of my mother, and she had a lot of help, so it was not a problem. And she used to tell her, Kalyani, my mother's name is Kalyani. She said, Kalyani, when I'm dying, put me on the floor. Put me on the floor. Every time I remember going in and saying, Kalyani, put me on the floor when I'm dying. Don't wait for my children to come. You immediately put me on the floor. My breath, my pran, we call it pran. The pran should go when I'm in touch with the bhumi, with the earth. Not on a wooden mattress, not on a wooden cot with a huge mattress or a rubber mattress. Put me on the floor. I never understood it till I got into haiku. Never understood it. And then when I was writing, when I started teaching about the five senses, I went to see whether Indians have something about the five senses. And sure enough, they had. It's a beautiful concept. They said it's akash, that is the ether. It has only sound. That's why we call the Omkara. Om. Something that is going from outside into you. The Omkara is the cosmic primordial sound. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The next comes Vayu, or the air, which has a sound, It also has touch. You can feel the breeze touching you, or the breeze pulling the dupatta down, or the blowing the hair. You can feel the breeze. Then comes Agni, or fire, okay, which has the sound, which you can feel the warmth. You can also see the sight comes in. The fire in a matchbox is small, in a burner is big, in a forest fire it's huge. It has a form, you can see it. The fourth, when I got it, I got goosebumps when I read it. The fourth is jalam, or water, where it has a sound, it has you can touch it, you can see you can see it. It has a form. A waterfall is different from a water in a glass, or the sea, the ocean, and water can be tasted. Sound can't be tasted. Wind can't be tasted. Fire can't be tasted. Each adding one more sense, one more sense. By the time you come to Jalam, the water, it has four senses. The last is Earth, Prithvi, which has the sound. From the ether, from the wind, it has the touch. From the fire, it has a sight. From or a form. And from water, it has the taste. And it has a smell.
Mhm.
I thought this is beautiful. And Indians and Buddhists, from Hindu, Buddha took a lot. Buddhists also believe that we have all these five, it's called the Panchabhuta, or the five elements. And it believed that we have in us the five elements. We are made of that. And that is the reason she said, put me down, because with the earth, all my five elements should go with each other, with all the other, they should join. And only my Atman, or the soul, because we believe in rebirth, comes into the next birth. And all this tied up so well. So this book, let me go back, is about the five senses. I've separated the book into the five senses, and then I went into Ayurveda, and then I went into Vastu Shastra, which is science of building, where they talk about the five senses. So it has other attributes. Each five senses has other attributes. I've included all that, and this book is made out of all that. And the second book, which I like, which came much before this, is this book brought out by Katha. I think this is brought out by Katha for children, and brought out in 2010. And I paid no money for it. I didn't ask. It was completely done by Katha. And it is such a beautiful book. It has 18 of my poems, both sides.
That
Completely
is beautiful.
illustrated. And then it just falls. Imagine a child having something like this magic book. That is beautiful. And now HarperCollins. And now HarperCollins. I can't get better than this. So I'm fine. I'm ready to die. I'm ready to die with this.
Well, I'm an internet guy. I'm just happy if I have a PDF someday. One of my things is that I just want to give it away. And the only reason a HarperCollins or anybody like that really helps you is because it gets to a bigger audience, and it's all the time you're trying to expand the audience for this little genre that we have, that we care about so much. And so you do that all the time. You're pushing stuff.
No, I agree with you. My daughter has moved into ebooks and Kindle completely.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the way. That is the way it's going to go, and it's a saving on the paper. That many trees are not cut. So if you see environmentally, I think that's the way to go.
Yep, I'm with you there. I live in a forest. I don't want to see any of it cut down. But when you are an editor, what kind of a process do you go through? Do you have a process to evaluate the poems? Do you think about them in a certain way, or do you just, as you said before, try and grab a big
see, I am an editor of Under the Bar Show, as well as the children's youth at Cattails. Children's youth is a different ball game altogether. I just encourage them. but they're mostly my students. But Tom Painting and Tim Gardner send their children's poems. So I have a lot of American haiku also included in the list. But otherwise, it is mostly my children. And after a 2-day workshop, the poems they give, I don't have to touch. Most often, it's unedited. I don't have to touch. After some 1 month, 2 months, they forget. And then you have to say, why are you putting this? Why are you putting that? But just when they're doing it and they ask them to write some 10 or 15 haiku, I can easily pick 2 or 3 beautiful ones. And that is what comes into cattails. So I pick the best from the children, but it is not something I compromise. Only the best goes in. Under the bar show, yes, I do look like any other editor for the good poems. And we have our own yardsticks. Okay. But I mean, what what puts me off generally is when they send it with their errors and when they don't check their typos, and then I say, why do such a hurried submission? And then I remember Hemingway's quote, which I like to look up my notes because I don't want to mess up that beautiful quote. This is the one. The most essential gift for a good writer is a built-in shock-proof shit detector. This is the writer's radar, and all great writers have had it. Ernest Hemingway. I thought that was beautiful. And I think if everyone who's taught haiku is also taught the value of editing their poems,
right,
I think the quality of the poems will improve. The submissions, we don't have editor's cap. I don't have to say, why have you put this? Why have you put that? So I'm not taking it. So I think we share our love, but we share a love which is well understood. And then I think the editor's job is much easier. That's about it.
Well, that's the funny thing about it is that people think it's easy. That's the hardest thing to get people past as well. It's a short poem. It's you rattle off a few lines and you're done, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
If it was that easy, believe me, we would have.
Easy. It's not. It's the toughest thing. Yes, we do it.
But I've got one other question for you, because I think we've covered everything here pretty well.
Yes.
But what do you want people to take away from this interview about Kala Ramesh?
Well, that's a very tricky question, and I thought a lot about it. Is it the haiku? Is it the poem? Is it that is the most condensed poem in the world? What is it that I want people to take off from this, take away from this interview? The beauty of haiku is that it's constantly changing, and it has this transportability, as Haruo Shirane said beautifully. Transportability. The American haiku is yours, just as the Spanish, the German, the Indian haiku, it's a sleeping giant now, it's waking up like with a great force. And the haiku, the senju, the haibun, the tanka prose, everything that we write is situated, is rooted in Indianness. And isn't that something very beautiful? Okay, and then I would say no more can Japan say haiku is theirs. And in both Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, the image of the Indras to describe the interconnectedness of the universe. This naturally led me to this beautiful concept called the web of life. To quote Alan Watts, imagine a multi-dimensional spider's web in the early morning covered with dewdrops. And every dewdrop contains the reflection of all the other dewdrops. And in each reflected dewdrop, the reflections of all the other dewdrops in that reflection. And so on ad infinitum. This is the Buddhist conception of the universe in an image, Alan Watts. And after that, I wrote this one-line haiku, which goes as dewdrops in a dewdrop, the dewdrop world. Dewdrops in a dewdrop, the dewdrop world. And this is what I want everyone to take back from this interview, that life is all about being in the moment, transient and interconnected. It's not about building walls, but dissolving them. It's
Exactly.
about oneness, coming together. It's not about compassion, it's about empathy. And I would like to end this interview with this beautiful quote: when you write about the pine, become the pine.
Exactly. Basho had it down. And Kala, you have this is a wonderful interview, and thank you so much for taking the time, because I am thrilled. And it's always good to see you, even if it's on Zoom. It's good to see you, and I always enjoy your work. So I would just want to thank you so much for doing this. We're
And
gonna
Mike, I should say a big, huge Himalayan-sized thank you to you. And I admire all the work you've been doing. Great. I'm a great follower of yours. The way you started off failed haiku and just bloom, it just blew out of proportion. It just went wild. And now you're doing something with all these events that you're compiling into YouTube. I think it's all treasures that each interview is so beautiful that I enjoyed. And when you asked me, I was tipsy. I said, "Are you asking me along with all those great points?" And I said, "Oh my!" And thanks, Mike.
you're
Thank
one
you.
of those great poets. Don't put yourself
No, thank you. I don't know.
anywhere other
I
than at
just,
the top.
I'm lucky to be in haiku at the right moment. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
Kala, thank you so much, and I think everyone is going to enjoy this. Appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.